Hi guys, today is going to be a pen sketch tutorial. You can use a colored pencil if you like, but I'm going to use this black pen, and I'm using paper that's slightly thicker than my regular scrap paper. This is a sheet that I have removed from my little dollar store sketchbook that's 6x9. So this paper is a little thicker than the regular scrap paper, so that means that I can, get some good contrast and stuff when I'm doing the different values to do the shading. Now, this tutorial is really going to be focusing on angles. There's a lot going on here. I will confess, this is my friend's little bunny rabbit, super cute. He's one of those dwarf ones. And when she sent me this picture in December 22, I did try sketching him a few times, and it was like awful. So I had so much trouble with him. So today's going to be an interesting exercise for me, because I'm hoping that since I've been sketching for the last year and a half or so, that I'm going to be able to do it. But anyway, let's just see what happens. So as usual, before we begin, we have to have a full understanding of what we're looking at and stuff, and we'll go through that. It's with the shape of the skull, the bone protecting the eye sockets, the muzzle, the cheek. This is the cheek here, on the other side. The chest, the curve of the chest, his little foot, the haunch, and the shape of this back leg coming into his foot and whatnot. The thing to pay attention to right here is this patch here. So if you have a reference photo and you're not too sure what's going on, if you're able to, you get other pictures of the same subject. And if you can't, then what I did here is just had a look at one of my other photos, and see how from the ear at the back of the head it goes almost straight down. We've got the muscle and all the ligaments that attach the ear to the head, but at the back of the head it goes almost straight down, and then there's the ruff, for the neck and stuff, and then we're going straight into the back. So I'm guessing that this is shadow, okay, because of the angle that my friend took the picture. So what I'd like to do is have someone else do the tutorial. Okay, let's be brave. We're gonna be brave on this Sunday afternoon. So I want to start with the eye. Actually, I had to mess around with the stool under my desk. So as usual, give yourself space on your paper so that you can travel up to the top of the ear, down to the bottom of the little tooties, and then capture his bum. So okay, we're going to start with the eye, and we're not going to draw a circle. Oh man, you guys, I'm such a wimp. You're actually discovering what a wiener I am. Okay, let's just keep it small. Keep it small and just start. So we curve for the top of the eyeball. It protrudes quite a bit. Rabbits are prey animals. They need to be looking around for foxes and hawks and all that dangerous stuff in their environment. So we want to give some good curvature to this eyeball. And for the part that reflects the light, I would like to have it off center and close to this edge. Just leave a fairly large white space for now, and we'll mess around with that later. Now what I want us to do is very lightly use your colored pencil or your pen, and I just want you to start shading in some of the fur that is, this is his little eyebrow, so this is muscle, and we know he's got a little kind of like eyebrow here where the fur is buckling, and also because of the curve of his skull here, we've got this density of fur right here, as well as because the eye socket is curving out over his cheek, this density here too. So when you're adding these features to your sketch, pay attention to the size of the eyeball that you've drawn. So don't look at like, oh, okay, I have to do shading this size. Do understand what this is, and then do it in the appropriate size to the eyeball that you've drawn, that you've sketched. So we just want to very carefully put in a little bit of shading right now, and what we're going to do is just work from one feature to the next. This is his little eyeball, and we've got this, the muscle is reflecting the light. We've got a little bit of curvature there, and we're just going to carry this back. And see right here, this shading stops at the top of his skull, okay? So we know that we want to just go up a little bit and start doing some of the fur at the bottom of the ear. So I don't want to get screwed up here. What is, okay, this. And then just back it up a little bit, and I want to do this marking at the base of his ear, not too much, and then carry this over to the top of his head. And then I want you to sketch in the actual bottom of his ear and see how far away it is from the eye that you've drawn. So if I've got a smaller eye and I want to go back up and I want to do the base of his ear, we're just going to put in that shading there and carry it up a little bit on the side of the ear. And then we've got the top. Maybe we shouldn't bother with that too much right now. We've got the, let's go to the top of the head. With the fur here at this side, with some shading that comes across the curvature of the ear and down. Now he's got the little hairdo going on here. Let's move over to the side of this ear right here. Just put in a little bit of shading where we've got the curvature, the back of that ear that comes down. Maybe, you know what, let's put in these markings after all, because it really helps us stay oriented with where we are on the face and the forehead and whatnot. And just take this around. We're just going to move from one feature to the next. And then this isn't too big, and it goes off the side of his head. So let's leave this little pale gap here, and we've got this darker fur at the base of the ear. And then maybe, I don't know, we don't need to worry too much about where we do the tops of the ears, but just to see if we can sort of like mark them a little bit. Worry about that later. Okay, now this is the side of, is there anything that we can do here to keep us better oriented? Let's take this shading down a little bit onto his muzzle. Keep it small if you've done something little like me. And then we've got this. These lines across the muzzle are really interesting. And I am not sure really what they are. But I don't want to do this curve, because if I do, I'm committed and I have a feeling I'm going to screw it up. So let's go back over here and see if we can figure out the side of his skull. We've got this that goes here to the edge, and then we've got his skull, the top of the skull, and then we've got the little bone and the muscle that comes out to protect the other eye, and then that comes in. And let's put in, can you see against the dark green here, this is all black. This is the bulge of his other eye. So let's just put in, make it smaller rather than bigger. Okay, and this likely will not have any black or any white reflecting off it, but we're just gonna have that there. Now this is his cheek. It's not his muzzle, it's his cheek. So let's just bring this out fairly, not too big. And then we're gonna shade in this border here, which is the border of his muzzle. And we're going to take this border up, and we've got some shading by this eye that comes onto his forehead. And let's just very carefully take this shading across his forehead to try to keep us a little bit oriented. See, and if you decided to use a colored pencil today, you're way smarter than I am. Okay, and we've got this little dark patch here. Now from this eye, I got this border here, and then we've got, it's paler, and then we do have this band starting about here. Take this up across his nose, a nice arc. See what I mean about how this tutorial is all angles, because this is really what's showing us. Now we've got this one here and here. Let's very carefully start on this side and bring it up as well, and try to get it to not be too far off like mine. I'm gonna have to back this up a little bit more. So this is too far apart. I have to fix that by making his eye a little bit bigger. I'll mess around with that in a bit. Okay, now in front of this curvature, let's do the shading over at the end of his nose. This brown patch here. And take this down to this nice cute little Y. It's so nerve-wracking because once you commit to putting in these key features, it's like you can't really go back and fix anything. Okay, so we've got the, like if you screw up the shading, that's one thing, but if you screw up like where you put the eye and all that kind of stuff, and in this case his muzzle, then we're in real problems. Okay, let's take his little muzzle around here. It's pretty, not too far. Maybe it would be easier if we started at the bottom of his lip. Here, and just do a little bit of a curve. And take this out and up. And on this side, it comes down a little bit. Not too far. And then we've got, I don't want to do a line, because actually I should be turning my paper, but I'll just do it sideways a little bit. So you want to bring the muzzle down and join it up with the bottom. And we're going to hide all our mistakes with whiskers. And we're not, how about that for a plan? Let's just shade in a little bit on his muzzle. So while we're here, where all these whiskers come out, and bring this in a little bit. And then there's some shading on this side as well. God, this is nerve-wracking. Okay, I want to make this cheek a little bit chubbier while we're fluffier while we're here. Okay, now where do you want to go? God, look how big the head is, and I'm gonna run out of paper. Let's take this, and I got to keep this small. I want to take it down. This is his chest. See how it goes down and it curves in, because his chest is pointing this way. It's not face on. So take it down just a little bit and then put that curve in there. And this is all chest muscle. And it curves right down into his front paw. If I sit up straight, I can see. So this right here, what we want to do is orient it in relation to half his muzzle and his eye. So it's okay if you don't want to go down very far, but just make sure that you've kind of got the position okay. And this is going to be his fluffiness, and this is actually the I don't know, like going into his elbow, you know what I mean? So this is where we want to have like his little elbow kind of thing comes out, and then his little foot is turned toward us. This will be like a little toe, a little side toe, back toe or whatever. And then these are the little, I shouldn't be dicking around with his foot right now. We've got more important things to do. Let's go back up to, okay, we're going the eye here. This is the shading at the side of the ear. And what we want to do is start his back right where we did our shading here, okay? Because having this curve of his back is really going to help our sketch show that he's turned toward us. And I'm like way too nervous to take this angle all the way down. So is my pen, that's why it's not wanting to leave anything on the paper. Okay, so just take this out, and then start to bring it down. Oh, come on. That's what happens when you get too tentative. Okay, I'm not doing any more than that. I'm too scared. Okay, so now we have to give ourselves a break, and let's go back and just kind of start working them up. And I do want to just see if we can, not if, I want to start completing his face and stuff like that. I think, and you know what? I totally think that's a good strategy. If you've got to work on the stuff that you need to practice, you know what I mean? And if you don't need to practice drawing a bum and a curve around his bum, then that's fine. Practice the stuff that's hard so you get better at it. I want to take this. So I'm basically just trying to go back over everything that I've done and do a slightly better job and fill things in a little bit more and try to follow the shading that I have done. I'll try, you know what, I should keep my hand off the photo so that you can work on anything that you need to. But I'll see if I can shade and talk at the same time. You know, I still have a lot of difficulty understanding folds and petals and all this kind of stuff with flowers. So the other day when I was doing, I found in my gardening book a great picture of a begonia. It had a couple folded flowers near the center of the blossom, and it was exactly what I needed to practice sketching. And the rest of the flower, the outside petals, were all flat. So what I focused on was just sketching and shading and trying to do the twist of all those petals in the center of the blossom that just make my brain hurt so much when I'm trying to figure out how to do them. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I am making progress, and I feel like I've kind of figured out a way to do petals, and I'm going to show you in a while, because what I've started doing is just following one edge of the petal around and doing it that way. I should be talking about bunny rabbits, not begonias. See, so this is where, like, yeah, it's true I want to focus on the shading, but then when we get the proper shading in, we still have to do the edge of the ear, so just try to pay attention to the shape a little bit, and we can do that. I just don't want to be drawing like lines, you know. Let's try to get the shading in a little bit better. So back to the rabbit. I mean, for me, the hardest part about this is definitely trying to capture an appropriate angle to the head and his little face. So if that's the same for you, then that's what you should practice. And by no means should you feel like you've got to sketch the entire thing. I mean, you can like outline the rest of them and whatnot, just to start, you know, be working on your proportions. But, you know, you don't want to pressure yourself to feel like you've got to sit down and do a 3-hour sketching session. I'm so slow. Oh man. So once again, if you did do this in colored pencil, like that was like a smart move, but I don't want to switch since I've already started. But I do just want to get some color down a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and work on the contrast and stuff like that. And that means this eye here, I want to have like larger, but not too much, right? You don't want to be screwing up the angle to make it look like, because not seeing much of this eye is exactly what we need to show for the angle of the head. How do I want to do this? But I don't want to, I've kind of like made a boo-boo by having it a bit too large anyway. And then I got a little bit of shading there, a bit of his muzzle here. And then this. And we can just try to finish up the shading around on his face and stuff. And let's actually work on doing this around here. So we're going to start by doing some shading the side of his muzzle, because not only is there a difference in the color of the fur, but there's also like curvature in there too, right? So how do I just like take some of these. Down onto his cheek. I should be turning my page, so I hope you're doing that. Turn your page so it's easy for you to sketch. You guys don't need to watch me sketch this. You need to just be looking at the reference photo. But I want to take this down. This is all screwed up. I should have turned my page. Let's do this shading under his chest. Really show that curvature. I know I've been doing quite a few bunny rabbits lately, but it is Easter next weekend, and you know, just using this to try to do get some angle practice in is like, it's a pretty good subject. Okay, this is like, man, let's just really start focusing on what we're doing here. And just start putting in some more contrast and stuff like that, and just first getting some color down, and then working on your shading. There's a lot to be said for colored pencil, you know, every once in a while. It does cover a lot more paper than just a pen, but that's okay. And just wherever you want to just really start increasing the detail. As long as you're doing what's appropriate for the sketch that you've got, you're going to be good. His little muzzle is a little bit darker and stuff, and where the whiskers go. It's usually a safe bet just to do some extra shading around the muzzle to show the curvature or contrast and stuff. There's a lot of real estate to cover. And because of that, like, he's going to look crappy for a long time until we sort of like get closer to the end. Or not. He might look crappy at the end too. And then we want to have some contrast here where we're looking around the side of his face. Yeah, I hope you turned your page to get, because when you do your little scribbles like this, you're also getting the direction of the fur correct too, you know? Okay, let's just be a little bit braver and take this around to his bum here, and you can actually see a little bit of his tail here. So this I want you to try to get. Okay, so we've got the side of his forefoot, and then a tiny little bit of his tummy, and then this is a curve of his can you tell I don't know my rabbit anatomy? But anyway, you know what I mean. It's part of his foot. Now let's bring this out. It's up a little bit. And then his foot comes forward. This is fur. We can add that. But what we want to do is get this, the top part of his foot, curving properly, and then in. This comes here, and then we've got his toes here, and then this is fur. This is actual the bone here for his foot, and it goes back here to the bone. And we just want to have a little tiny angle in here, up, and then this curve here is the back going into his bum. See, everything is about angles, and if we can do that properly, then even though all our shading might be crap, at least we're sort of getting the orientation right. Let's shade in the top of his foot. And then we want to do this, because this dent right here is where the leg muscle is folded into the body. Okay, so how do we want to, this is the ruff of his neck, and it's, how about we just go up here and start marking down his back and leave this light. Keep your pen away from this, because that's going to be our border of the ruff of his neck. This comes into his chest. So let's just get all this, just get some coloring down, okay? And what we'll do is we'll shade it in where the muscle and the his front leg and his back leg are causing, you know, the bumps in his body. Do. You being so smug with your colored pencil. I just know it. Is this too big? Looks too big. Let's pull this down a little bit. This tummy, there's some shading in here. That's too big, this is too small. I want this larger, and then this is the angle here. This curve of his chest. And how do I want to... see this here? I don't have the right angle. So if you've done the same as me, bring it down more to make his chest bigger and capture this curve into his front leg. And see, I told you that you should have run the tutorial and not me. See, I made this shading is too dark, so that means this is the value that I've chosen for this shading, which means that I've got to do the rest of my sketch according to what I've done here. So I'm kind of like, that's okay. See, that's the whole thing about being very careful when you start your shading and the values that you choose, because if you go too dark, then you're like totally like screwed for the rest of your sketch. You've got to kind of like match it. Because the values that you choose are what is going to be showing, like the contours, the shading, all that kind of stuff. I've also made his muzzle a little bit too wide on this section, so I'm going to take that in. So now we're just going to go through and work on adjustments, corrections. I always try to be so careful when I start, and then it just kind of all goes to crap, you know? Oh, I really don't want to do a line. Jeepers creepers. And I don't like the angle, and this needs to be in more. Anyway, just I'm not complaining, I'm working. So just pay attention to what you're doing and do the fixes as you need to. I shouldn't have made this big. Remember when I said, oh, I had to make his cheek a little bit bigger? Well, jeepers creepers, I didn't. I didn't, and I shouldn't have. So there. The ear, and then there's they are kind of like small and fatter. So don't go too high like I just did there. Not every rabbit has great big honkin' ears. I might as well just add some of the contour. And just keep working them. I don't really, like, I know we used these markings to sort of keep us oriented on his forehead, but I kind of wish that we hadn't done that, because I don't know. Oh, going too heavy with my pen after trying to be so careful. I'm going to take this fur out a little bit there, and better job around his nose. I'm not making excuses for myself, but honestly, the pen was not like a smart choice. See, this is kind of like straight, and so I want to I don't want to have, and when you pay attention to these angles, it really orients his face, right? So a very small change in your sketch can completely change the angle of his face in what you've done. Which is what we want to do. Let's take this here. Now we want to, this is a little bit darker here. So how does this go? Oh, this is that. And then this is supposed to be, man, and then I want to just bring this up a little bit, this here. Like there should be some shading there. I just want to get the border in first. Oh, now my pen is like leaving way too much ink. So we want to do a little bit more, have the fur a little bit darker, just have a really nice shine to his coat. But what we want to do is capture where the light is and the bends in the fur. Show where we've got the top of his haunch here. And around to his back. And let's put in this shading here, because this is where, okay, so we've got his tummy and we've got the curve in curvature here, because you know, like this bone is like coming out, and it's always like kind of flat too underneath his coat. So we got to show that. Geez, this is all so confusing. Okay, so this is lighter, this is dark. It's a little dark there. Oh, you know what'll help? Let's do all the shading under his bum. And this fur that is kind of like hiding his foot. This is a shadow mark, but that's okay. Put that in. Okay. Well, it's not okay. This is not okay by a long shot. It's a bit of a mess, but if you understand what you're doing and how it should be, then you can just almost forget about the reference photo if you've hit that point, and then just start fixing them up, which is what I'm going to do right now, because if I did a thumbnail of this sketch, first of all you guys would unsubscribe and I'd get no new visitors to my channel. How come I'm making his foot so big? Oh man. Okay, I'll pretend that his foot is just like a little bit furrier than it is. What do I want to do? I want to go this way. Shading with some toes. Take this around to his bum. Maybe it would be better if I did all my fixing and my shading outside your line of vision. This is actually like a part of his tummy too, right? So we just want to make sure that we can distinguish that. And as I say, like, because I went too dark in that one area, then I've got, like now I'm kind of forced to sort of like adjust the sketching or the shading that I've done elsewhere. But that's okay. That's all right. It's kind of like good and relaxing to think about how you want to work them and where you want to shade and what you need to do. So just like we'll just put in some markings for his ruff, and then what we'll do is just change that border, make it a little bit more obvious where his face stops and we're actually looking at his back. So we're taking a little bit of creative license, okay? Because we know where we've got the shading with his ear, the fur around his ear, and then where his back starts. And it's not exactly the same as the reference photo, but we can get around that by not posting them side by side, right? Okay, so this is this little lighter shaded rough around his face. And then we've got the darkness of his body behind. And we're going to have light reflecting off the curvature of his back. But when we go down to his chest and where his chest goes into his front leg, we're going to have contour there. And in general, the side of his body is going to have a little bit more darkness to it. So just keep coloring him as you can. And if I'm still not happy with what I've done with his front foot, and of course it gets to the point where I'm making it worse by adding more color. And then we want to have that distinction between his leg and his body. There, and his nice dark little tummy underneath. Bring that down if you have to. I think I needed to. I have to make sure that I'm still in the right place in my sketch and not get too carried away, thinking that I'm doing the right thing by adding contrast and shading, and meanwhile I'm not even looking at the right part of the reference photo. See what I mean by like how flippin' challenging this is with all the angles? You can just put in a little bit of like messiness by his bum, because there's a little bit of his tail fur sticking out there. Not a lot. Pretty much screwed up his foot, but that's okay compared to his face. Okay, now we've got we can do like way better with this. I don't like the way his little face looks at all. So let's just add some shading to his forehead. Peering out at us, saying like, how come you've made me so ugly? It's okay, we're gonna try to fix him up. And I always screw this up. See how the way his ear connects to the skull there, and then it comes out with the bone? I never managed to do that properly, even though it's not for lack of trying. Trust me. If you look at the other rabbit sketches that I've done, I've totally screwed that part up. Among other parts that I've screwed up. I want to just improve that kind of contrast around the base of the ear. You know what? Like, compared to my other attempts, well, I mean, looking at this, you can guess if this isn't bad compared to what I did in the past, you can imagine what I did in the past. Yeah, see where that... Do I want to... How's the angle on your sketch for this right here? Because this is actually the top of the skull. And if we make sure that we've got that slight curve in there, and then going out to the muscle, it will help with the way we've got our angles. I think this eye should have been a bit lower on my sketch. But this is too big, so I kind of don't want to be screwing around anymore with this area on his face. Because I don't like what I've done here. And some meanie said no erasers allowed. So we're not allowed to comb back and kind of like tone that down or back it up, you know what I mean? Okay, I want to just like do a better job shading his little muzzle. Keep this a little bit light because there is big differences in the shading of the fur. And I think I could actually make this a little bit bigger. You know, when you're looking at a reference photo, some of the things are so subtle, right? And you think, okay, this I have to kind of like make subtle in my sketch. But then you make it subtle in your sketch and it doesn't even like hardly add anything. So then you realize that, okay, I've really got to bump up the contrast and really overemphasize things. And when you do that, you do kind of like see more, like a larger difference. What do I want to do? I want to just protect this. It's okay if this is like a little bit darker on this side. Don't let me forget about the whiskers. So you know what I mean? You try to be like so careful with the shading around what you do, and then it turns out like not to be enough. So you've got to like do more to really show what's going on and provide some good contrast. I think I'm just going to leave this light patch here as reflection on his face. His poor little cheek. It's way too dark and too big. And if you want to get fancy, you can do these slightly darker areas where the hair follicles are all lined up on his muzzle. And we've got the whiskers that are white that we're going to add in black. And then just sort of really, you can just increase the shading on his chest to show that curvature. And change the angle if you need to. See how awkward this angle is? Like you sketch it and your sketch is fairly accurate, but then it looks completely screwy. I really don't like doing this the line like this with my pen when I know it's like a marking in his fur. I can just imagine my son saying, "Mommy, he's not good enough for the wall." In which case that means that the video isn't gonna be good enough for posting. Wouldn't be the first time, trust me. Okay. Do you have some good contrast in his body? Don't make them all the same color, but you do want to have those areas where you can sort of show the curvature. of his back and contrast. I think this is just a little bit, that's his tummy, this is his leg, this is curvature. I'll shade this a little bit more. How is yours looking? I mean, if nothing else, you should, based on what I've done, you should have some confidence that you're kind of, you know what you're doing. Okay, are you ready to add the whiskers? I just want to see if his see, because I've kind of got the eye. I'm just changing the angle a little bit. But I don't want to put the whiskers in until we're pretty close to the end. You could mess around for like the next half hour just doing different shading and stuff like that, and going over things and making sure you're happy with the contrast and stuff like that. I kind of don't have any choice though, because I gotta figure out what I'm gonna, he's gotta be final for the thumbnail, right? Okay. All right, let's do these. You don't have to do all three, but let's just be brave and put in some whiskers over his eye. And then we've got lots of whiskers on the muzzle. So if you went ahead and did the markings for the hair follicles, then just put your pen in some of those darker spots and see how long all these are. So don't be afraid to be brave and put some of these out there. That's a little bunny rabbit. It's gonna be good enough. So, okay, you guys, as always, thank you so much for your company. And I hope that, you know, I have to say, all this stuff with angles, it's no joke. It is extremely difficult to master. So this has been like one of the better exercises. I mean, all the little birdies are good too, right? But this guy is a real challenge. So proud of you. As always, thank you for your company, and happy Easter. See you next time.